Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of October 6th through the 12th of 2025. All right, so this week we have a full moon right at the beginning of the week on Monday and Tuesday. This is going to be in watery Pisces. Pisces is the constellation of the oceans, of the fish, connecting to the ethers of life and really the essence of life when it comes to that underlayer that we are all connected to. So great time to be reconnecting with this side of ourself. It's been 6 months since we've had the new moon here, or rather the solar eclipse that happened here 6 months ago. And so it's a great time to reconnect with this side. This is in the context of Virgo, where we just had the solar eclipse 2 weeks ago. Very important month that this still is. And with Virgo, it's been a time of releasing and clearing any unhealthy improvement, control, getting into the details of things, sort of improvement-oriented Virgo stuff. So this is where two signs balance themselves out. Full moons are all about balancing energy. In this case, control and non-control. Focusing on what we do have control over, letting go of what we don't. Focusing on the physical, while also being connected to the spiritual and the flow of things. So great way to incorporate these two polarities around the early part. As we start to get into Tuesday, Mercury will start to square Pluto. This can actually be a very deep energy, a deep mind, deep communications, perhaps. And so here, a great time to be really willfully getting into it. It's a great time for research, uncovering deep things, and perhaps challenging ourselves to look at things, people, life from that deeper lens, and perhaps even express it as well. We have a lot of sign changes this week. Venus is going to be going into Virgo. It's not her most comfortable sign. She's considered debilitated here, but it's a great opportunity to start to see the value of some of this improvement type of stuff. And so good time to be connecting towards improvement, refinement, striving towards perfection. We've already had a lot of that energy, but Venus is going to help us see the value of it, the beauty of it, and how to connect that way in healthy ways, oftentimes with our relationships as well. We also have Mars going into Libra, also a challenging placement traditionally as it opposes Aries. This is going to be on Saturday, but this can also be very constructive. Here with Mars and Libra, it's all about balance and fairness when it comes to our needs, our assertiveness, pushing forward with things. Mars represents our goals and our drives, but with Libra, it's all about doing what's fair, right, and just. And then the weekends with Venus going over this kite. We've had this kite activation these past weeks. And so here, opposite up to Saturn, there can actually be a good opportunity here for a little bit of grounding those values, grounding enjoyments, and perhaps even those relationships also. Okay, so a lot to discuss. Let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here's the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, October 6th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. Unfortunately, mainstream does not use the visible constellations, and so you will notice that a lot of the signs are different. For example, this full moon in Pisces, maybe you're expecting that to be in Aries. So if you are new to this, and especially if you notice some of the sign changes, definitely check out the link down below on using the visible sky called True Sidereal Astrology. Okay, so we have a lot going on this week. We have sign changes. We have quite a few aspects taking place here, as you can see. So let's go and break this down in the most fundamental form. So the most fundamental thing and the most important thing about the week is that we are in the solar eclipse month. We had a solar eclipse about 2 weeks ago, and this was a complete reset to our life path. It's now a new beginning for our life path, and it's really one where we can now incorporate a little bit more of these healthier Virgo qualities. Okay, we have the Sun, Mercury, Mars finishing here this week, Venus entering here this week, a lot of Virgo energy, and this emphasizes really in its highest, one of its highest expressions is striving towards improvement. Right? Striving towards what we do have control over, which is fundamentally ourselves. Virgo is about, structuring things. It's about getting into the details of things. It's about analyzing things. But all this really, the healthy place is towards personal growth, personal development, personal control, personal structure, routines, healthy diets, habits, right? This kind of stuff. So great time to be connecting with that self-improvement aspects of ourselves, and now doing it in more healthier and balanced ways. So this is what this whole month is fundamentally about. And this is very much now a great opportunity to balance that out with Pisces, because Pisces is the counterbalance to more of that earthy structure or analytical type of energy. So Pisces is about letting go of control. It's about going more with the flow. It's about being more receptive. It's about connecting to our higher self, or God, or source, or life itself. It's not about the philosophy here. It's about connecting to that essence or the ethers of life, or as the Pisces fish, being connected to everything that we're connected to, right? So to be aware, to be in the moment, to be conscious, to be present, to be soul connected, to be intuitively connected, right? And this is an excellent way to balance out that more earthy, improvement, structural Virgo stuff that's still very activated. So here, great opportunity on Monday, Tuesday to balance this stuff out. There's no major aspects with the full moon, but still a very important one, being that it's the full moon in the eclipse cycle. You could even call this a very partial eclipse, but I'm not going to, because the last lunar eclipse was much closer. But the point here is that it's within the eclipse season. So great time to do a status check these first couple days, Monday, Tuesday. How are things going with this receptive side? How is your life when it comes to a soul fulfillment perspective? Is there receptivity? Is there a willingness to go with the flow? These are all things that are really coming to the forefront, coming to our awareness, that we can now start to incorporate, not only for the next 2 weeks of the lunar cycle, but really for the next 6 months. And in many ways, this is finishing up what has already been in development for over the past 2 years. The last 2 years, we've had the eclipses involving this Virgo and Pisces energy. And now this is the last actual eclipse season here, where we're activating these two constellations. And so a final incorporation of the last few years regarding mental health, spiritual health, intuitive and soul connection, soul fulfillment in life, these kinds of things. So status check with the full moon and shifts and changes. And this is going to help us pivot. There'll likely be some important changes, some important pivots this early part of the week. So along with this, we are going to have Mercury squaring up to Pluto, deep Pluto, and so our minds will be in the underworld this early part of the week. And so this can actually make for some really good deep diving if we do this intentionally. Squares are a great time to be intentional, because we can really ground and implement stuff. So research, uncovering deep things, psychology, healing, all this is great. If there is an opportunity to maybe face some fears, maybe involving our perspective on life, maybe involving communication, this can also be something that's great to willfully and intentionally face, right? Facing the doubts, facing the insecurities, facing the wounds, and in this way, transforming ourselves, because this is all about letting go of the outworn, things that no longer serve us, with the perspective and communication. But the way we do that, with Pluto at least, is to go into the face of them, right? To have nothing to lose, to be aware, being willing, but at the same time, being willing for the ego to die, right? Being willing to not have maybe what we want or we're holding on to. So willingness to face these fears, these insecurities, etc. So this can end up being an extremely constructive early part of the week, and anything that is intentional towards that deeper world is fantastic. Now, once we start to get into the Wednesday time, the moon will come out of out of Pisces and into Aries. And so here's where we'll be, really starting to implement the shifts with the full moon. So Wednesday in particular, early Thursday as well, good time for some action, some initiative, some proactivity. It's still the time of action because it's a full moon phase, but the Pisces energy, again, it was more about soul connection. And we still want to be doing that, of course. But in order to move forward the soul connected stuff, we do need to take initiative and action. And there'll likely be some themes around this with the moon here, both Wednesday and early Thursday. This is also the same time that Venus enters Virgo. So we complete a lot of the yearly Leo energy that we've had a lot these past months, and now adding, let's say, more to the Virgo side, okay? But with Venus here, it's about connecting and seeing the beauty of that Virgo improvement stuff, right? So the value of striving towards improvement, the value of personal development, connecting in our relationships in this way. The reason this isn't the easiest place is because this can be quite challenging for relationships, is relationships don't really fare very well with improvement and perfection. Or, again, wanting to shape things a certain way. So if we can join up with others in the realm of work, in the realm of personal development, right, in the realm of improvement, then great. And this can be an excellent time to be doing that. But to see the value, to see the beauty of improvement and refinement and striving towards perfection, which Venus will help us do there. Okay, so along with this, it's nice to see that Venus will be sextiling up to expansive Jupiter. It's nothing major, but there could even be some opportunities here for some connections, not just to people, but to life itself. Venus is all of our connections, enjoyments, things we find beautiful, relaxing, comfortable, even values like material stuff, finances. So there can be an opening here for some of these values that we have in life. A little bit of opportunity could perhaps be available there. Nothing major with sextiles, but doors, there should be at least one door presenting itself there, and you can choose or choose not to walk through it. And it doesn't mean necessarily that that particular door is one you should walk through. It's just that there are opportunities to be seen here. Okay, so that's the early part of the week. Once we start to get to the second half of the week, we'll be coming off of the full moon and entering into what's called the disseminating phase of the lunar cycle, where we're starting to disseminate the perspectives of the full moon. In other words, we've got this higher perspective. Now it's time to implement it. Now it's time to move some of the stuff forward. So great second half of the week for that after the early parts pivot and changes. So this will be with the moon in Taurus late Thursday and for pretty much the rest of the week until Sunday. The moon loves to be in Taurus, so maybe perhaps generally a little bit of a comfortable week, let's say, at least in terms of the emotional world, the personal world, but nonetheless, a good time to be grounded. Taurus is all about stopping to smell the roses. So a good second half for a little bit of earth, some sensuality, some material enjoyments, or just the aesthetic beauty, comforts of life. And this all comes from connecting within, so just a good time to be connecting to our inner natural side, right? So our natural talents, our natural abilities, our resources, but a good time to take things slow nonetheless there. And then once we do get to that late weekend, Saturday into Sunday, Mars will start to go into Libra. And in my opinion, I would actually prefer to have Mars in Libra than Virgo. Virgo is also quite challenging for Mars too. And this can help balance out a lot of that, again, improvement energy that is so strong at the moment. So Libra is all about fairness. It's about justice. It's about doing the right thing. And especially when Mars is here, it can be a lot of fire towards this, a lot of action towards this. So good time to see, yes, what do we feel like we can bring balance back into our life? Again, starting with self, areas of life that are out of balance, how can we bring things back into balance, but also maybe interpersonally as well, in the sense of mutuality, harmony, reciprocity, seeing both sides of the situation, both sides of the coin, and trying to find that middle path. Okay, it can be a great time for these kinds of things, a great time for relationships. It can be a little more direct, a little more assertive there, which can help things, again, find an even keel there. Okay, so nice shift there that we'll probably notice mostly into next week once Mars gets fully into this new sign. And on the weekend, Venus will be really activating this kite. We've been talking about this kite with Saturn and Neptune in opposition, trines up to Uranus and Pluto. So with this over the weekend, though, I think really seeing that there are things to be building towards our future. It's definitely a part of the year where we're getting, in many ways, sneak peeks as to what early next year is about, because early next year, Saturn and Neptune will conjoin officially, and that'll be a new beginning there. But here seeing the long road. So good weekend for seeing the value of patience, the value of persistence, the value of perseverance. And maybe some of these connections or relationships or enjoyments can benefit from this. Usually with oppositions to Saturn, it's a great time to do a status check, just like a full moon. In this case, how has the past 6 months been with your values, with your resources, with your relationships? Do a status check there, and maybe there's some things to continue with that maybe do require some responsibility that are most likely you willing to put in some responsibilities there, and we can notice some positive shifts with that one. Okay, and then like I said, Sunday we'll have the moon in Gemini. It could be just a good day for some communication, some learning, some practical mental kind of mental energy there. Okay, so that's a lot said. Let's just distill this. I wanted to make sure everything was covered, but at the same time, we don't want to confuse things because it doesn't need to be. So most important thing is that we're in this solar eclipse month, and it's a great time to be striving towards these new healthy improvement energies of life, right? And the early part of the week with the full moon helps us see the counterbalance to that. How can we focus on these improvements while at the same time release, be, more connected to the flow of life or our soul, and really prioritize mental health and spiritual health. So a status check with the soul fulfillment, with the mental health, all right, the ethers of life, that stuff, status check with that, because that's what we're making changes with. And it's a great week for some changes, making shifts and changes along our life journey. We got some deeper energy with Mercury and Pluto, which can be utilized, depth, deeper communication, deep diving, great for utilizing it. There can be some opportunities, maybe a little bit this week, sextile to Jupiter. We have a lot of sign changes, which means shifts of energy, mostly just adding to the Virgo though, to be honest, at least in this early middle part. And then Mars going into Libra is kind of counterbalancing it. So let's just say it's definitely a week of Virgo, but we're getting some Libra at the end of the week. Libra is about balance. It's about fairness. It's about reciprocity. It's about, doing what's right and fair, seeing both sides of the coin, whether it's personally or interpersonally, and putting some action to bring things back into balance there. Okay, so that's over the weekend after we built a little bit of, perspective with the full moon. It's a good weekend for really applying things and still doing a status check though, especially with values and relationships, as Venus opposite Saturn can help us see these things that we can really be grateful for, but maybe make some shifts with as well. Okay, so everyone, have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for the live stream. Anna Maria goes live every Sunday here at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time of the Americas. Links are down below, also on YouTube and in the newsletter. If you're not yet signed up to MTZ Insiders, definitely do that. It's a free newsletter and you get to stay connected with all these updates and the community as well. So hope to see you there. Hope to see your name in the newsletter, and see you next week for the next astrology forecast. Take care.